Welcome to Granite State Real Estate. I'm Paul Dakota, a member of the Granite State South Board of Realtors, here to present to you a show about preparing to rent. And to talk to us about this topic, we have Stephanie Colbert, Realtor for Pata Real Estate Group, joining us today. Thank you for being here, Stephanie.
Thanks for having me, Paul.
Stephanie, how long have you been involved in the real estate industry, and when did you start in specializing in rental properties?
Sure. So I actually started as an admin in the industry back in 2006. Then in 2012, I was licensed through the New Hampshire Real Estate Commission. In order to collect rents and show properties, you do need to be licensed. So just like you would go to someone for selling your home, a licensed agent, you have to do the same for renting a property.
Some of today's information for today's Renters episode was obtained from Realtor.org website. And how do people usually reach out to you? Is it mainly by phone, online searches, walk-ins?
Sure. We have a mix. So we get people that find us online through third-party listings like Zillow, Trulia, Homes, all those. But we also have people who stop into our office. So we're taking those phone calls, we're answering those emails, as well as dealing with people that stop in and see us.
And I'm sure they go straight to the specifics. I'm looking for such and such. How do you help guide people through the process and narrow things down?
Yeah, so we get a mix. We get some people that know exactly what they want. They know the school district, they know the town, they know the number of bedrooms. But we do get people that say, I'm looking for a rental. How can you help me? And that's when we go and we talk about what are you looking for? How many bedrooms? What town? All that information to get them to the best fit property for them.
Very good. How can people prepare to rent their property? As a lessor, what should people keep in mind? What costs are landlord's responsibilities?
Sure. So the thing is a lot of the times these rental properties were your home, whether you lived in them or a family member lived in them. You have to somewhat detach yourself from it because this becomes an investment property and you need to look at it that way. Bottom line, you need to make sure all the safety concerns are taken care of, that your inspections are done if your city or town requires it. But you also want to depersonalize the property, taking out anything that would be specific, like just furniture or pictures, things like that, and neutralizing it, neutral paints across the board.
Mm-hmm. And where can state and local codes be found?
You can go right on your town or city's website. It's going to have all that information for you. Some towns do require you to do certain inspections, and all that information is going to be there. General guidelines on smoke detectors, carbon monoxide detectors, grill usage, all that can be found on there and on the state website.
And as part of the screening process, what steps are used when verifying qualifications on tenants as part of the screening to renters to match them with the right rental for them?
Yeah, so in general, we look at the whole picture, but there are three main pieces. You have your credit piece, you have your landlord piece, and then you have your income piece. The credit piece is the first one, and it's not so much about the number. Certainly that matters, but it's the whole picture. So are you paying current bills on time? Is it that you just have high student debt and that's causing your number to be a little bit lower? The whole picture matters. Landlords obviously are most concerned about utility bills not being paid on time, as well as any sort of landlords that are owed money that are showing up on your credit report.
We all worry so much about scores when in reality, it's as you just said, it's not always about the number, but what is on your credit, what is being looked at is interesting.
Right, yeah, absolutely. The next piece is that landlord reference, and it's certainly important to get those references from people to see, are they paying their rent on time now? Is the property kept in good condition? And if you're considering taking a pet into a property, you want to know, did that pet cause damage at the current property? And are they going to have any issues, along those lines? You want all that information when you're selecting a tenant.
Right. They'll provide you with a lot of history in a particular applicant's rental background. You mentioned income is one of the three main pieces to an applicant. What can you tell us about that?
The Department of Housing and Urban Development uses a figure of 30%. 30% of your gross income. Now that can include Social Security, it can include unemployment, alimony, child support, all that income. 30% of that should only be going towards rent because you don't want to get in a situation as a tenant where you can't afford a property. Likewise, an owner doesn't want to get in a situation where he's going to be chasing you down for rent. So you want to find a property that fits within that. It's not a hard and fast rule. Obviously, if some utilities are included or there are some other amenities, you can be flexible with that number.
When should somebody consider a cosigner? Is that a last resort?
Yeah, cosigners, Some owners are hesitant on it because it's additional paperwork, it's someone else involved in that leasing process. But co-signers are often brought in if you are lacking in one of those three areas, whether it be you don't have any landlord references, your credit's not great, or you don't quite qualify based on income. The thing for co-signers or lease guarantors to remember is that they're on the hook for the lease. Not only the rent, but all aspects of the lease. So if the property's damaged, the landlord can go after the co-signer as well to make sure that he's made whole again.
As a tenant, what are some of the things you wanted to look at prior to signing a lease?
Yeah, obviously the lease, that's the number one thing. And you'd be surprised that some people say, I've read other leases, I don't need to read this one. You want to go through because you want to know what you're responsible for. Are you going to be the one that's doing that lawn care, snow removal? Who's changing those smoke detector batteries every 6 months? All those items are important. You also want to make sure prior to signing that if you had any sort of agreement with that landlord about X being done or Y being taken care of, that is stipulated in the lease or has been addressed. Again, you just want to make sure you're getting the property that you're signing up for.
Great. And a property statement, how does that protect a tenant?
Yeah, so a property statement is used really to just outline the condition of the property. So when you do a move-in walkthrough, you want to note if there are issues with the carpet or the walls or appliances not being cleaned. Photos are great, and I use them as a supplement, certainly, but you can't always see everything on there. So you want to make sure you have it written down, because when you move out as a tenant, you have to leave that property in that same condition, less normal wear and tear.
What is a statement of landlord?
So the statement of landlord, we kind of touched on it when we talked about letting your, going to your municipality, going to your town, going to your city, and looking up what you need to do. The statement of landlord is going to advise the town that you have a rental property. And some towns do require certain inspections to be done. For instance, the city of Manchester, they require a certificate of compliance because they go through and they make sure that the property is fit to have a tenant in there. So you need to notify your town, so if they do have inspections that are required, you're put on that list.
What about insurance? What would you advise on that? Obviously, you've got the homeowner that needs to protect themselves, and you've got the tenant that should be protecting themselves as well.
Exactly. So as a unit owner, you should have insurance, but you want to let them know, are you living in the property now? Is it vacant at the moment? Do you have a tenant? Because your policy can change. So you want to advise your agent where you are in that rental process, so that way you have the proper coverage. As far as the tenant goes, you certainly want to have coverage so that you're covering your own liability on the property as well as your personal belongings. I usually ask landlords to have their name listed as an additional interest on the renter's insurance policy. That way, if there's any change in that tenant policy where they cancel it or are taken off of it, you're notified. That way you can be fully informed and follow up with the tenant to get an updated insurance binder.
Very good. Along with the lease, you'll ask for a security deposit. What are the terms for determination of such deposits in the state of New Hampshire? And can a landlord simply come up with any amount?
Yeah, so in the state of New Hampshire, you can take 1 month's rent and then an additional month, no more than that. So you can call it last month's rent, you can call it security, but it can't equal more than 1 month's rent. So you can't do first, last, security, and a pet deposit. But increasing the rent, if you do have a pet in the property, increasing the rent by a certain amount will allow you to increase the security deposit, because now your rent is increased and your security deposit can be increased. Landlords that are managing their own property need to remember, after a tenant vacates, 30 days from that point, they need to send a security deposit statement to that tenant. And if there are any deductions, whether it be there's some oil that they need to be reimbursed for, or there was damage to the property or owing rent, those items just need to be listed and itemized on that statement there.
And what's the importance of a lease?
Leases are obviously very important, not just to say what's the term and how much. You want all those rules stipulated in there. Who's mowing the lawn? Who's cleaning the furnace? What is the tenant responsible for? And tenants want it too, because they don't want to be blindsided by thinking that the owner was going to take care of something when in actuality it's more their responsibility.
Okay. And can you give us a better idea of what property managers do? Do they just show property and work on the leases?
Yeah, we certainly do show properties. We certainly work on those leases. But you have to remember, this is our business, right? So you go to a real estate agent that does sales, you go to a property manager who does property management because they specialize in that. We work closely with vendors, we work closely with landlord-tenant attorneys, so then that way if you ever have an issue at your property, whether it be a furnace not working at 2 a.m. On a cold night, or a tenant that's not paying and we have to go through that eviction process, we're familiar with that process and we're able to get the best team together to get you through and to the other side.
Get it. And in your years of experience, do you hear more frequently from people as one of the main reasons? What do you hear from people as one of the main reasons why people rent versus buy?
Yeah, so you see a lot of different reasons for renting. Certainly, people that are new to the area might not know what town they want to settle in, so they rent for a year or two to kind of figure that out. It could be a case of they're downsizing or don't want to deal with as many things. You see a lot of people, too, in this market where they might want to buy, but the house that they want is not available, whether that be price point or just in the location they want. So what they'll do is they will rent for a few years, keep building their savings, and then when there is a starter home or a property that fits their need, that's when they're going to move into that property. So renting is a great option, many different reasons.
We've reached the end of our episode. Realtor Stephanie Colbert from Pata Real Estate in Derry, New Hampshire has been gracious enough to come in and enlighten us with some great information for renters. Thank you so much for being here, for informing us on the services available in our community to better prepare people looking to rent. Thanks again, Stephanie.
Thanks, Paul.
I'm Paul Dakota. We hope this information has been helpful to you. Have the best of days. Until next time.